Hey everyone, Wayne here from Zenatta Consulting. In today's tutorial, I'm going to cover what is a Net Promoter Score, or NPS for short, why businesses use it, and how you can implement it into your business flow using the Zoho Product Suite. But before I jump into the video, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button below. It really helps us out, and let's dive in. Alright, so before I get started, if you already have a good understanding of what NPS is, feel free to use the timestamps below to jump ahead to the Zoho part of this implementation. For everyone else, let's go ahead and take a look at exactly what NPS is. So NPS is a survey score that, based on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely you are to recommend a friend or family member to your business or service. And within the scale of 1 to 10, it is broken into 3 categories. The first is being a promoter, which is a score of a 9 to 10. The next is a passive, which is a score of 7 to 8. And lastly, we have detractors, which is a score of 1 to 6. Now, to calculate your Net Promoter Score, what we do is we're going to go ahead and subtract the percentages of detractors from the percentages of promoters. So NPS equals the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors. So what does this all mean for your business? Well, in short, NPS has shown to have tremendous impacts for businesses, and ranging from your industry, a good score can range from 40% to maybe even 80%, and in some industries like your telecommunication companies and your cable providers, 0% might even be good when looking at it at a scale of negative 100 to 100. But overall, it just varies, but it is extremely impactful, and it lets you measure the customer loyalty and how your brand is essentially doing and your product's doing out there in the real world. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can tie this all in and build a survey, send it out to our customers, and tie it in with our CRM. Okay, so to get started, let's go ahead and hop over to Zoho Survey. First thing we're going to do is create a survey, and we will call this Zen Superstore NPS. Well, we'll call it Client Satisfaction. And customer satisfaction. So if I wanted to, I could go ahead and create a new survey from scratch doing this, or to save time, Zoho does have some pre-baked templates which are great to speed things up on the process. So I already had the Net Promoter Score selected previously, which is down here. You can also just do a quick search, and there it is. So we'll go ahead and select the survey, and we'll call this survey name Satisfaction, Zen Superstore Client Satisfaction, and voila, we have our survey. Now, this is great and all, but the people receiving this survey, we're already going to have their contact information. So we might want to go ahead and add a few fields. One of the first things I would probably want to know is, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you scored, in the detractor range, what did we do wrong? Or maybe even, a 7 to you, like a C is like, okay, like that's still a passive, but it's not great. So, how can we improve? So maybe we want to go ahead and add a long answer in here, and we can just say something like, experience, and we'll go ahead and add some logic though, because we only want this to display when a certain condition is met, and in this case, on this question, is less than, we'll say, less than 8. So now this will only display if I select a 7 or below. Another thing we might want to add and hide, but not make mandatory, is the first and last name. So let's go ahead and add full name. And everything looks good. And for display logic, we will never display this question. I'll go ahead and go over that in a minute. So now we have our NPS survey. Some other things you may want to add here is, a lot of organization, big, Fortune 500, like retail companies, this might be the last question on their survey. So, how would you rate your department? How would you rate the quality of your product? How would you rate all of these things? And then they'll sneak in this last question down here, which is going to be the NPS, score that we're building out here. So now that we have a basic template, let's go ahead and save this. And now what we're going to do is let's go ahead and integrate this into the CRM. So we'll go ahead and hit the integrate. And like I said before, these people are already contacts. So we'll go ahead and hit next, and we'll go ahead and update their record. Now you may also need email, or depending on what the required fields are in your CRM, there may be some mandatory fields. So back in the editor, you might want to go ahead and add those to the survey as well. For now though, we just needed the last name, so that's why we put in name. And let's go ahead and check this pre-populate survey answers with information from the CRM. And we will go ahead and save this. So now that we have it integrated into the CRM, what if we want to map over different fields like the NPS score? So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, so inside the CRM, now what we're going to want to do is create a NPS field. And I went ahead and pre-created one inside contacts here. So I went ahead to the contact record and created this pick list called NPS. And I'll show you why I did it as a pick list. So if we go here, I have all of our options 1 to 10. So we'll go ahead and now map that over to the survey. So let's go back over to the survey. And now we can also map the NPS score. And on a scale 1 to 10. And now we have map options. So this just gives you some customization right now to do 1, 2, 3. Now the other thing you could do here though, we want 0, which we don't have 0 in the CRM, but that's okay. The point of this was to show you that mapping them, but rather than all the numbers here, what I might actually want to do is just simplify this even more and exclude the score, or maybe I want to keep the score, which is also okay, but we could also make an NPS field and just simplify this to 3 fields, which is detractor and passive and promoter. And now if I go ahead and cancel this, I can also refresh this. So all we really care about, the score is important, but at the end of the day, a detractor is a detractor, and passive is a passive, and promoter is a promoter. So we could just go in and remap this field. And when we go to NPS, we map it over, well, a 0 is going to be a detractor, 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 and we could just map out all of the fields as such. So now that we've went ahead and created the integration, this build out in these format, it's going to be whatever works best for your organization, what type of reporting you want. But let's go ahead and save that. And another thing I wanted to mention that I'm not going to go over much, but this could be useful as well, is maybe a trigger email. So, and I'll show you the condition here, but maybe we want, on a scale 1 to 10 is equal to or greater than an 8, so it's a promoter. Hey, you said you're very likely to recommend us to a friend or family member. Well, you could drop in the link here, recommend us, and create a little form. So you could do something cool with that directly in survey. You can also make all of these triggers inside the CRM and campaigns, which is what I'm going to go over now. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this survey distributed. So the most basic way is you have this link here, and you could drop this link, which would take you directly to the survey. Ideally, though, this isn't what we want to do because they just purchased a product from us. We have some other information. We want to send this out in an email based on whether it's a purchase or an invoice paid, to get them our NPS survey. So you could distribute it directly from Zoho Survey by creating an email here. There are so many other tools, though, such as CRM or even better, campaigns for sending these emails out, that I would not recommend using this survey. Another thing, too, real quick, we will probably want to turn on is if we go to response restrictions, we'll probably want to enable this and only do one response per email. This may vary though, but usually speaking, you're going to want to go ahead and save this. Back to the distribution part, you can also directly create a campaign here. So if I click this, it's going to go ahead and open up Zoho campaigns and get you ready to start an email campaign based on a survey. Another way we can do is we can do an inline email. So, or before I actually jump into this, if you have a website, maybe you want to do a pop-up survey right after they purchase it. If you wanted to do that, I'm not going to go over that in this video, but the pop-up survey embed, you can generate a code here as a pop-up survey or as an embed if you want to just give the embed to your web developers to do some cool custom stuff. That can be done here as well. My personal favorite way of doing this is I like to do the inline email. So the idea of this is we're going to embed one question, in this case the NPS question, into an email. And then when they click on one of these within the email, it's going to pull up the whole survey with all of this pre-populated. Now, one way you could go about doing this is I already have a template pulled up here inside CRM, but if we go ahead and create a new email template based on the contacts module, we can go to the survey, and what I did here is I will reconfigure this. So we're going to choose the question on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this brand to a colleague or friend, and our email distribution service will be Zoho CRM. We'll go ahead and generate that HTML, copy the code, and one of the things I wanted to point out here is you're going to want to choose insert HTML or plain text as the template if you're going to do it through CRM. The reason for that is you don't have a way to embed it here this way. You can embed the survey. We have our Zen Superstore client satisfaction survey, and they can, you can turn this into a link or a button or do it on it, but it's not going to display the question. Now, if I go ahead and cancel, and let's go ahead and create a new survey, and we're going to insert this as plain text. If I went ahead and did the HTML editor here, I can now, under style, go ahead and drop in. Oops, maybe it doesn't. I didn't save. Insert. There we go. So I can go ahead and insert the survey here. But this, it doesn't look great, but it's okay. And we could save this, and we could spiff this up a little bit and make it look better. And then, based on that, maybe they purchased a product and you have some way of tracking the product here, or an invoice was paid, or the service is completed, so a deal stage was moved. You could then go ahead and create your workflow rules, based on that certain set of criteria to send out the NPS. We could create a workflow rule called, based on contacts and NPS survey. And then here we could go ahead and create a workflow rule depending on what the criteria is hit or met to send out the NPS survey. Now, I'm not going to dive into how to create that workflow in here. We have plenty of other videos on how to create workflows, and there's so many variations of this. I'm going to go into my personal favorite way of doing this, and it's by segmenting customers. So inside of the contacts module, now would be a good time to start thinking of, okay, what do I want my triggers to be to send off this NPS survey? It's going to either be a deal stage or maybe invoice status or an update to their record, and then in here we can go ahead, or maybe we just sent a handful of demos or a trade show and we have a list. So let's start with that. So first, if we had a list, we could simply go in here, we could create a campaign, and we'll just say it's a regular email, or you could do the Zoho survey. I personally prefer to do the regular email if we're just going to do the one question, and we'll call this NPS survey. And they purchased our electronics is going to be the topic, and we'll save and proceed. And now we can go ahead and create a basic blank template here. And if we go back over to our survey and we reconfigure this, we can go ahead and get it for campaigns. And we'll generate our code. And now, unlike the CRM, we can go ahead and insert an HTML section and drop in our survey here. We can customize this, and then we could put a header up here and say something like, thank you for purchasing our thing, add some images. We can make this look a lot better than what we were just building inside CRM, a lot faster. So we'll go ahead and proceed. And then this survey, we could pick our recipients, so we could have our mailing list, and we can choose our mailing list, and we can go ahead and send this off to all of those people for them to get the survey. So that's the first way we could do it. Now, the next way we could do it is creating segments inside the CRM. So by creating a segment, what we can do is we can call the segment send NPS survey. And based on the criteria we determined inside the CRM for when we're going to send these contacts the survey, we can go ahead and pre-populate it here. In this case, we don't have anything created, so we'll just say, I'm just going to send it to myself. But we would put, deal stage is such and such, and then everyone that hits that deal stage for the first time, we could send that survey. So then we can go ahead and go over to our library, go to email templates, create a beautiful template with the embed code that we created, and then we can go ahead and go to automation, and we can create a workflow. And without diving too deep into these workflows, we'll just create a custom workflow real quick, and we'll call it send NPS survey. And then we can go ahead and create our survey. So, based on entering a segment, we can go ahead and send an email. And then here we can go ahead and select our trigger and send NPS survey. And then we can go ahead and create our message. And then create our contents, and if we had a beautiful template, we could go ahead and use our beautiful template there, or we can just go ahead and drop in the survey real quick here. We'll paste that code back in. So, and then based on, there's multiple things you could do with this. Did they open it? Did they not open it? If they didn't open it, we could set up, based on their response. If they opened it, cool. If they didn't open it, resend it in 7 days. If they opened it, close out the workflow, resend the survey, send a different email. We can make updates based on, whether or not they filled this out. But the general idea here is just to kind of show you this is one way to get the survey out. And now we can start building a web of workflows. So, another workflow, we can create a segment and come back to campaigns, create another segment, and we can call this segment Promoter. So everyone that said, well, in this case, we actually have a set of criteria, so we can say NPS. I haven't mapped it over yet. So let's go over to sync services, and we'll go to our syncs, and we'll go to our context module, field mapping, and we'll go ahead and edit this, and NPS, and we'll add it as a new field. So now if we go back to our segments, oops, going too fast here. Gotta initiate it first. Map this one more time, NPS, add, initiate. Okay, now we can go back to our segments, and we can create a segment, and we can call this Promoter. And if NPS is Promoter, and then everyone, once they took the initial survey, and this is being recorded back to the CRM from when we created our integration here, kind of building a circle here. What we can do now is create another workflow saying, hey, awesome, we're happy you loved our product and would recommend it. And kind of as I mentioned before in the survey of if we went to triggers and creating an email trigger, if they scored a 9 or a 10 for Promoter, we could also start building all of these webs directly inside campaigns, which is going to give you better reporting, more customization within the workflow. So then we can create another workflow that would essentially send out a different email. Great, you loved our product, here's a quick little form. Can you send this email to your friend or colleague, or would you give us their name and email for us to send them an email, or send them to this page to get 10% off, whatever it may be. You can go ahead and start building all of these. All right, so to do a quick recap of everything we covered in this video, first we went over NPS, then I went ahead and showed you how to build the survey inside Zoho Surveys, and then we went ahead and integrated it with the CRM. After that, I went over a handful of different ways to distribute that survey, one through Zoho Survey, then we took a brief look at how you would send it out in Zoho CRM, and then finally my favorite way of the endless options of distributing it through Zoho campaigns. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also check out our comment section below. Go ahead and drop a comment down there. If you have any questions, we'll try to answer it in our very next episode of the CRM Zen Show from whenever you drop it. Also check out the description for links to our resource library, Club Zenatta, and more. Until next time, have a great day.